What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. This episode is brought to you by our new partner, Off the Record. Listen, guys, I've been pulled over more times than I can count. And if there is one thing I've learned, it's that you should always fight your tickets. And if you've got a professional to help you, that's even better. Because it's not just about, I got a speeding ticket and it's $200. That goes on your insurance more times than not. And it exponentially costs you more money over the next several years. If you have nice cars and if you have multiple cars, that cost is multiplied and a speeding ticket could be in the thousands of dollars. That's why I want to welcome our new partner, Off the Record. Off the Record helps you find a qualified attorney in the state you got your ticket in or the state you live in, and they will fight that ticket on your behalf. They have a success rate over 90%, and if they don't get the ticket off your record, you don't pay them. That's the guarantee, folks. There's two ways to do it, okay? You can either go to their website, and it's our specific website. So you go to the link in the description of this episode, or it's fight.offtherecord.com/TST. I know that's tricky to remember. So fight.offtherecord.com/TST, or you can download the Off the Record app and use code TST10. Now, either of those methods gives you 10% off any services you get from Off the Record from now until May of 2023. So you download the app, you bank the code now, and then it's there when you need it, because you don't want to be on the side of the road with lights flashing in your mirror and decide that is the time to find an attorney. You want to have Off the Record ready for you. That way, if you get pulled over and you think you can fight this case, they are there for you. Remember, guys, always fight your tickets. Fight.offtherecord.com/TST or code TST10 on the Off the Record app. We are also brought to you by Dylan Optics sunglasses. You know those awesome matte finish sunglasses that I'm wearing in every car review video? They come in all kinds of different frames. They come in all kinds of different colors. And the anti-reflective NIR lens technology doesn't just look cool on camera. It really helps in bright light. It cuts down the glare. The polarization is great. It's like HD life, really. The clarity is just incredible. You've got the plastic, surfer style. You've got the wireframe, more aviator style. There are large frames, small frames, and you can get the lenses in about 5 or 6 different colors. If you go to thesmokingtire.com and click on the partners page, see that Dylan Optics link. If you use that and you buy a pair of sunglasses, I will send you a free Smoking Tire t-shirt for supporting the people who support the show. So go to thesmokingtire.com, click on the Dylan banner, and I will give you a free Smoking Tire t-shirt if you buy a pair of Dylans using that link. All right, folks, on this episode of the show, an old friend of mine, Bo Bachman, is here. Bo, you may recognize the name and the face because he was on Pimp My Ride back in the day. His shop, Galpin Auto Sports, which is a division of the Galpin dealership group, which he owned, they took over for West Coast Customs the last couple years of Pimp My Ride. They now have a new show called Car Kings on Discovery, and they're also an enormous dealership group that caters specifically to enthusiasts, and so I think Bo is a really good guy to be a guest on the Smoking Tire Podcast.
Hey everyone, real quick, we had a little audio problem with Bo for the first 9 minutes of the show, but it gets corrected and then everything's back to normal. So if you hear a weird echo, I promise it goes away at about the 9-minute mark. Thank you.
Hey folks, it's the Smoking Tire Podcast. What's happening? I hope everyone enjoyed their weekend. It's Monday for us, no matter when you're listening to it. And I don't know where you're at, but where I live, it seemed like people were itching to get out of the house. It seemed like they were being good. They weren't getting too close to each other, but people were definitely trying to be at the beach, and everybody wanted to go drive their sports cars. There was crazy traffic on PCH. And joining us from, I'm guessing, his dining room or something, looking pretty fly, Bo Bachman.
my daughter's bedroom.
Is that your daughter's bedroom, Bo? That looks
Yes, it
pretty
is.
pimp. Like we were like, is that a horse on the
but
wall?
It is. Wait, which way? Which way do I go? Yeah, you got the pony back there, the little flower lamp. Yeah, it's daughter's room.
Is your daughter a serious horse girl?
No, she just liked the painting.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But she does like cars, so that's cool.
Oh, that's good. At least you're keeping in the family there. My sister was a horse girl, and believe me, if your daughter just wanted the painting, you got off cheap.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't
my
like
brother
cars.
had
I just like
horses,
photos of cars.
so yeah, we know all about that. And the cars are much better habit to have, I think.
Especially if you're in your business. Bo is I don't mess up the title, but long and short of it is you own what is one of, if not the biggest Ford dealership in the world. Is it the biggest?
Well, we were the largest volume
by
Ford
volume
dealer for 29 years.
Largest by volume, yeah. That's what the word biggest means. But I've bought 3 cars from you. You've also,
and I appreciate that, my friend, very much.
No problem. I'm happy to do it. And you were on Pimp My Ride. You now have a new show on Discovery called Car Kings. Which did I just see Mad Mike's face on that show?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Mad Mike is on as well.
One of my other favorite people. Who's been with you guys? How long has he been with you? For like 10 plus years now?
15 years.
Wow.
That's what's getting weird, man, is how time's going by and how long we've been at this. It is kind of bizarre, but it's all good.
And yet fun. Your hair, strangely, getting darker.
I'm lucky to have daughters because they're dyeing my hair for me at home now.
Dick.
I'm just giving you shit because I really was about your skunk look. You had a really good like skunk lock. That has been dyed out, I guess, by your daughter.
Well,
I just wanted to give you some
all
crap.
that was just being lazy because it has to do with when I dye my hair, and I'm very lazy about it. So, yeah, my hair is pretty much like gray and white at this point. It's terrible.
You look like the frontman of a rock band, and this team you have has been like 15 years. You're like, we've been touring for a long time. Like, it's working out. You guys,
dude.
Cool. You keep making
been on
shows.
the road for like a decade and a half now. Finally hitting home. No, but it's I timed it perfectly where just when I was supposed to get a haircut, we're not allowed to go anymore. So
now you can just rock it long forever.
And now my daughters and wife threaten to just cut it in the middle of the night, so I have to sleep with one eye open. But anyway.
Hey man,
it's okay.
I'm proving to be very smart on a few levels. I put a gym in my house a couple years ago, and now my friends all want to like book time in my house. And I eliminated haircuts a couple years ago, and that's been working out pretty good too.
Very smart. Yeah, eliminating haircuts is to me the most wonderful thing. Even though I love Juan, he takes care of me, but I love the freedom of not having a haircut.
Dude, if you ever get to the donut, you know what I mean? I started to go donut, and then it was outski. Just pull off the Band-Aid, commit, go full Bic, and there's no going back. It's not only luxurious, Bo, it's aerodynamic.
For skiing. Excellent.
And shiny.
Yeah, it's great. Like I was driving a Morgan all week, a new Morgan Plus 4. When was the last Morgan you drove?
Oh my gosh, decades probably. I've not driven a modern Morgan.
Modern
but
is a
modern
term
Morgan
used.
is like that's an oxymoron. I know what I just said.
Yeah, I know. But man, nothing makes people smile when they see you go by like driving in a Morgan. I mean, you're a man of class.
I love those things. And you know what? I've never driven a 3-wheeler. That's something I'm dying to do.
You're missing
out.
Because
I love that style of car because. Like for me, an XK120 Jaguar is one of the funnest cars to drive. Not the most powerful, not the best at everything, but there's something about like how small it is and this huge steering wheel. And you feel like you're in a 4-wheel motorcycle. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Something so wonderful about that. I love that thing. That's what I want to take.
You're really missing out by not having driven a 3-wheeler. A 3-wheeler is like driving a biplane. It's
that's what it looks like.
It is. It's crazy, dude. You have to give yourself a character that starts with like Baron Von something.
Yes.
And put on a really long scarf and like a leather jacket and some fucking goggles. I mean, you have to be very hardcore to drive one of these things.
To me, that's part of the fun, is like dressing up for it.
Oh yeah. Well, Zach took the +4 one day over the weekend with his girlfriend, and when he went to give it back to me, they were like in costume.
It was so fun.
That's awesome.
I mean, my only costume was like, I have a hat. Otherwise, I was wearing clothes I normally wear. But she like went all out, and it was real fun. We were doing voices the whole time. We were doing
mid-Atlantic accent.
I was just like,
yeah, see,
I'll take you out for a drive, sweetheart. We know you can't drive a car. It's too dangerous. You're too temperamental. Come on.
See, that's the joy of an automobile right there. It's not just about transportation or four wheels. It's not even about, look, what you're talking about, not even anything about the car. It's just having fun with the spirit of it.
Yeah, no,
and
objectively, the car is terrible.
Yes.
I mean, there's no statistic that makes it look good. I mean, it's like materials, ladder frame, wood substructure, hand-hammered aluminum. Okay, good. Yes, this is going to be fine.
And yet, how much fun did you have driving that car?
It's the best. I mean, it really is. It's very exciting to drive, and it really is. It makes otherwise mundane tasks very fun and interesting.
Well, it was a car. I think that it's an experience at any speed. Like it's an experience to drive that car versus, we were up there in the canyons. We're seeing people go by in modded Vettes and Camaros and whatever else, McLarens, and all of them were like waiting for the moment that they could go full throttle, like second, third gear, and that's it. Like that's all they get all day. They're just waiting for that one little chance. And this thing, like 5 miles an hour, sitting still, like everything about it is.
It's
an
always fun.
Yeah,
it's always fun. But God help you, there's a couple on the 405, going over the hill. Ooh. There's a couple of those, little yumpers where you get, proper negative G. I mean,
bad.
you are held into that car by the seatbelt as your ass exits the seat.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, the turning wheels are 19 feet away
and not connected to the steering wheel by all measure of tactile feedback. Good. You know what I felt? It felt like, it feels like you're steering a dinghy.
Yeah.
Like you just turn the outboard and the front just does something. That's what the car, like that's how it reacts to your steering. It's very weird.
And yet, I swear, it's good. Somehow all these things
after the funny thing is, after that description, I just want to drive it more.
Yes. You want to buy a franchise? Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going that far, but I definitely want to take it for a drive down Mulholland.
Well, dude, speaking of oddball franchises, how about the fact that over the last couple of months, used Spikers are like 300 G's on Bring a Trailer?
Deserving. So.
Well, they're amazing, but Bo had the franchise back in the day.
Good old Victor, man.
Like back in the day, they were a tough sell, Not much has what's changed?
Perception of scarcity. It is a cool car. Every one was like an individual work of art because they were hand-built that way, and they were, I thought, pretty darn cool. We got and sold one officially, and then it was done. And Victor always had a promise that never quite came true, but I still think they're pretty cool.
Did you ever drive the one that you had?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They were fucking rowdy. They were so cool to drive. They really were a good time.
Something really raw about it, And
the 18-inch exhaust length. I mean, that from cylinder head to exit of car was about 18 inches. They ripped, man. And Nick at VF Engineering built a supercharger for that thing too that made it like super scary.
Yeah, it was. It was a cool moment, but that's what'll happen. It's like a weird thing, like a vector. It's worth nothing for a long time, then all of a sudden there's some interest in it, and then people forget about it. But the 80s got hot again, and the 90s, and now we'll sort of see the 2000s. It's crazy.
That vector got what, 750? It was in the middle sevens, right?
Something.
I mean, that's just for a Vector WA for $700,000, man. That's just crazy.
Yeah, good old Jerry Weigert, man. I knew all those guys back in the day. That's the funny thing.
Well, Jerry's a local. He would bring the Vectors out to the Cars and Coffee that's like around the corner from your shop.
Yeah,
we would see those things.
And he once developed this thing. It was like a motorcycle on the water. I forget what he called it. And I remember I went out one time in the pier. We were like driving around. I couldn't even hardly get up on the thing because it was so difficult to ride. But yeah, he was always trying to invent some weird thing. And God bless it. The idea of that Vector was really cool. The execution, was okay, but never quite took off as the American hypercar. But no. You got to give a guy credit for trying, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might have been the 3-speed automatic gearbox that did it in. Something tells me the Toronado transmission isn't really supercar material. But like at your place, you have one of the coolest collections of cars from all periods, and you have some really kind of odd. I don't think you have a Vector, but you have some really oddball stuff in there too, where it's like, well, they tried, and so
no Vectors.
What do you guys have in there? Since I haven't been in there in a couple of years, what's in there now?
Well, on that path, probably Lagondas are a big weird thing that we like. So, I had one of the very few, one of 4 Lagonda Tickford limousines. I had actually the last Lagonda that was made for North America at one point, and sold that. Unfortunately, that got ruined in a hurricane, and I think it's being restored again. But I love Lagondas.
I do too. They're a very guilty pleasure of mine, but I've never actually driven one. What do they like to drive? Are they all right?
Yeah, the 89 that I had was actually a beautiful, wonderful, smooth car to drive. It pretty much was sorted at that point. The 84s, 85s, they're more trucky, I guess would be a way to put it. There's a lot of power that goes nowhere.
See, I'm looking at this photo, which I think is an 84 or 5, and I'm going, yes. And Zach is literally shaking his head and just doesn't get it at all.
I don't get it. I
really get it.
And I just imagine they feel like a town car. Hopefully.
No, they're not nearly as nice as a town car.
Then what are we doing?
A town car is a beautiful floating yacht. There's a pureness about a town car that nothing else can replicate a town car. That's not a town car. It doesn't drive like anywhere near as good.
What were there? Wait, were there 3 or 4 series of Lagondas? 3, right?
4 series.
Oh, there were 4.
In fact, was there a 5 series? Because technically, this is where I wish I just looked up all my things. So I'm trying to think. The 1 and the 2 didn't come out, but the 3 was the first version, and then the 4 had the 6 headlights, or the 5th had this. Forget it. Someone's going to get me on a technicality here. Sorry.
I don't know, but I they're all awesome. But I think the newer, the later ones I like better from a styling perspective, at least. It's good to know they drove better too.
They had smoothed out the edges. So to me, what I like the what I'll call the Series 3, which is probably wrong, which had the pop-up headlights. And had that back end taillight design that was just crazy as well. When you popped up the trunk, there was something that had to be in the underneath so that it was a reflector on the road. They had some bizarre thing back there.
Wait,
but
what?
then I think it was
like it's shown a light on the road.
Yeah, I got to look that up again. It had to do with the reflectors. It was some bizarre design problem they had with it. But then in like the 87, 88, 89, or maybe 88, 89, that's when it had the smooth edges and the 6 headlights. And I agree, there's something really gorgeous about that design in my mind.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people hate them too and think it's literally the ugliest car in the world. So
they're super polarizing, but I really like them. Do you guys restore them in-house too, the ones you buy, or have you just bought like done ones?
No, we do both. We did Evel Knievel's Lagonda for him. He liked our Lagonda and he wanted his restored like ours. So his had a bizarre like Chrysler engine in it.
I've heard stories. Shit, who came in here and told me the story of getting smoked on the highway by Evel Knievel in an Aston Martin Lagonda? Who was that? Was it like Gail
fast.
Banks or someone like OG?
Like, that would be something, a good Gail Banks story.
It might have been or maybe Bruce Meyer or like one of those OG LA guys. I think told me a story about getting smoked by
little Bruce Meyer.
Evil Knievel in a Lagonda.
Now talk about a fast Lagonda. That was the fastest Lagonda I'd ever driven. It was incredibly quick, and it would get so hot so fast that literally your right leg would start burning because I don't know, it had like no heat insulation. So I think we tried to fix that a little bit, but still that thing got so hot so fast.
Well, I bet an old Chrysler V8 probably needs a big radiator, and like where did like the Lagonda has a very pointy nose like a Corvette. It probably has like cooling problems, right?
That one did.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you put a 500 horsepower Chrysler engine
exactly.
Wait, so when you restored it, did you put an Aston Martin engine back in it?
No, he just wanted it kind of cleaned up and everything. So we went through all the engine and suspension and then repainted and redid the whole car. It just made it gorgeous.
That's like my dream, like pro touring build, like just an LS, motor or something, and like a 6-speed GM auto, and keep it simple and just like make it work. And I'd cruise that all day. Right,
I would too. I really want to do one of those like really bad. Like,
you should
a Lagonda restomod or something.
You have the resources, sir. You should. What else you got? What else you got in the gas collection these days?
Well, we've been, focused on the show a lot and getting those cars finished, and that's been a lot of what we've been doing, and kind of that's the new thing in there. So the Shelby Pantera has been pretty fun to work on, and that was an actual real deal treasure hunt. That was one of the funnest things I've ever had the pleasure of doing in my life, and we literally. When we got the Pantera, it had no engine in it. And through Shelby and our connections there, because we've known Shelby our entire lives, we narrowed it down to the junkyard where it was. And then we went in and actually found the Chrysler NASCAR engine that Lee Iacocca gave to Carroll Shelby, and then married it back with its body. So this is literally kind of Carroll Shelby's restomod Pantera.
Yeah, so wait, back it up real quick. For those who don't know about this Pantera, what is the background on this besides it just being Carroll Shelby's?
Well, Shelby and De Tomaso go way back together, and that's a whole story on its own that we didn't have time to tell. But that's basically where you get the Mangusta and the Cobra from. Obviously there was the Shelby Cobra first, and Shelby and De Tomaso were working together on some projects, Peter Brock project, and then they had a falling out, and that's how the De Tomaso Mangusta came about, and the name was Cobra Killer, on purpose. But at the same time, they had this friendly rivalry as well, and De Tomaso was always trying to get Shelby to be his distributor. So he would, kind of tease him with these cars, and it never, Shelby ended up never actually becoming the distributor, but, he had these Panteras to play with. And then, he liked to play with cars and hot rod them out for different things. So he was always looking for an excuse for something. And I don't know the entire story, but he wanted to use it for something. And then the idea came about where Iacocca was getting on Shelby about creating the next Cobra. And this is obviously after Iacocca had moved over to Chrysler, and the minivan had brought Chrysler a lot of success, and they wanted to bring something that was a sports car again. And Iacocca, obviously working with Shelby in the past, wanted to bring back the new spirit of the new Cobra, which obviously eventually became the Viper. So this was an excuse, probably one of many excuses that Carroll would have used to get something like a NASCAR engine and hot rod out this Pantera, and they kind of used that as an excuse to create a test bed for the Dodge Viper.
Listen here, fucker.
This car kind of
I'm gonna need 3 NASCAR engines. Get them over here. Send them down.
So they, obviously they ended up going with a V10 and a Viper, but Shelby was really wanting to use this V8 which had a twin turbo setup from Gail Banks, who brought it back to life on the show.
It was a NASCAR motor with twin turbos on it?
Yeah.
Yikes.
And,
wow.
Marine turbos, actually.
Of
and
course.
that was the thing. So this is the engine that
turbos.
Shelby wanted to use and push for. And actually, there was some technology that came out of this Pantera that ultimately was used on the Viper. Nothing super major out of it. But it is really cool that we have this kind of piece of history that sits between the Cobra and the Viper.
Yeah.
And it's totally 80s as well, which is totally
Well, we're looking at a picture
awesome.
of the interior right now. It has the luxury seats and the luxury doors, which are really funny. They're like wrinkly leather, and it's hilarious. It looks exactly like the kind of car a Texan would be doing cocaine in.
Yeah. It's a white interior with
awesomely
polished
80s.
wood.
Yeah, burl wood everywhere.
And that's why we just cleaned up the interior. I did not want to redo that. It was, look, this thing only had 1,300 miles on
Yeah,
it.
you can't
It was
top
barely
that.
driven by Shelby. So
Did you drive it though?
Oh yeah, dude.
Wow.
It was fantastic. And honestly, a little bit scary.
It's got to be
I had it
scary.
I had it out on Willow Springs, and where Shelby tested out GT350s and the Cobras, and where a lot of racing was done back in the day. And in Cobra versus Ferrari, it's really cool because it's in there. So I get this
We joked
really
about
kind of
Ford, we
surreal
joked about it in,
moment, man.
Ford versus Ferrari a lot because they didn't dress up the track at all. They just plopped old cars there, and it's like, okay, yeah, it still looks like that. But did you put the turbos on it, or you just put the NASCAR?
yeah.
Oh, it has
Oh my
turbos back
God.
on it too. Okay, cool.
What's really cool is that we get Gail Banks on the show, and he actually talks about the car, and something he hadn't thought about in, like he says, decades. And he was able to put it all back together for us with the turbos, because that engine came right out of the junkyard. They don't show like the work that we did and everything we did to get the engine ready, but Gail helped us with that, and then put the turbos in it. We got it running beautifully, and I took it out on Willow Springs, and then got to have some fun with it. So there's some perks to my job too, which is awesome.
Yeah, no shit. I feel like we buried the lead with finding the engine in the junkyard though. Can we go back
How do
to
you do
that?
that?
Yeah.
Give me the how does that happen?
So, like a lot of Carol's projects just kind of got forgotten and thrown in the corner. And that's what happened to this Pantera. So it sat in the corner of Shelby for a long time. And I don't know why they pulled the engine out of it. I still don't have a good answer for it. But that's something that was very Shelby. Pull that engine out, put it in something else. And it probably got pulled out and forgotten about. And then everything got sold off. And we were able to track it down, actually, from somebody that worked previously at Shelby, and tracked it down to Dick's Towing. And God bless Dick, he was awesome.
Did Dick
we
know what he
rummaged
had?
through the yard. Yeah, he because there was a connection there, and that's how we traced it back to Dick's Towing and found it in the junkyard.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was a totally surreal moment and absolutely incredible.
Did it need to be completely rebuilt, or was it actually able to be kind of like, cleaned up and run?
Well, it didn't need to be it turned, but it still needed obviously everything on it. The turbos were redone. There were some things that were some new parts that had to be put on it, but overall it still turned, and it was a pretty good engine for sitting there in a junkyard for 30 years. Or however long it's been.
NASCAR engines always seem like a good idea.
Yeah, right?
That must. What is
More
the
power, yes.
I had a Superformance Cobra with a NASCAR engine in it, and it was detuned to run on pump gas, but it was still a fucking NASCAR engine, and it was a death trap. It was an absolute death trap. Sorry, Zach.
People
We're
don't
going to go ahead.
understand how scary these things are. That's no fooling. I mean, literally, we were talking about, earlier about how, not driving very fast and being scared. The scaredest I've ever been driving has been at like 3 miles an hour. That was that bathtub ridiculous thing that we did, which literally had I don't even know, 600 horsepower Hemi in it. and I'm sitting there literally sitting on a toilet seat driving this thing. So that was the scariest per mile an hour I've ever driven.
Have you ever been on one of those V8 bar stools?
That was this, basically. Yeah.
Death trap.
Except it was a toilet. And I had my whole family in 2 bathtubs in the back of this thing. That was the stupidest drive I've ever made.
Oh my God! Yeah, that sounds properly scary. I mean, I'll pass on that.
What was the power delivery like from a twin turbo like NASCAR engine from the past? Because we know that turbos nowadays, you get so much torque down low. They work really well compared to how they used to. But I mean, how did it feel?
Honestly, like nothing else I've driven. It was you could definitely feel an American NASCAR, just brutal, power out of the thing. And also I'm sitting there driving, trying to repeat lines I've memorized on this track on a car I've never driven before. So I was scared to death.
Yeah. Not as easy as it
going
looks.
around this track. And I was like completely discombobulated during a lot of this drive. So it's hard to give you like an exact, like, here's how every angle felt. But it was like definitely a raw horsepower moment in a, I haven't spent a lot of time behind the wheel of a regular Pantera, but it was nothing like a normal Pantera.
A really well-sorted original one is a very nice thing to drive.
Yeah,
like a good restored one it feels very European and really nice.
Our buddy Matt Stone had one as a daily driver for many years and drove that thing. I don't even know how many miles.
As a daily driver, did he really?
Yeah, years he drove that Pantera.
People in LA have had some really interesting daily drivers. I really like that. I was reading Sports Car Market. Yeah. I was reading Sports Car Market earlier today, and there was like some very last version. I think it was like 1991 maybe. I think it was called like an SE91 or something like that. And it didn't even have pop-up headlights anymore. It had like these weird, almost Lagonda-like headlights and a really rounded 90s body kit on it. Have you ever seen one of those things? Like
what kind of car again?
It was like the very, very last Pantera. The really...
Oh, yes!
When they made it like super 90s.
Yes, it was like, was it 92, I think?
Yeah, it was the real end of the Pantera.
Yes.
And it became very round.
And
Zach,
I want to say they only built like 40 of those or something like that. It's a very low
Pantera
number.
SI, that's it. Yeah. It's very interesting looking what they did with it. The front end is like just completely different. It looks almost like one of those Alpha like CZs or one of those things, like those weird Europeans.
Little F3.
Can you imagine if that thing kept going? It's too bad,
Well, the Ring brothers did an awfully pretty
I love
attempt
that
at
thing.
it, didn't they? Yeah. I drove it. It drove really weird, but it was gorgeous. When you did Shelby's, did you go through the whole thing? Did you sort out all the suspension and stuff like that too? That's awesome.
We went through everything in the car.
That's awesome. Where's the car?
It's over at the collection, man.
Is it?
Come by.
I gotta come see it.
Yeah, come. We'll bring it out. We'll take it out sometime.
Oh, I'd love to.
Then you can tell me how you think it drives.
I can't help myself.
I mean, look at the difference between the
look at that.
70. There's a 72.
Yeah.
And then you jump ahead in like 94.
22 years.
91.
I'll tell you what, the Morgan Plus 4 has changed less in 70 years.
Yes.
This is the 70th year of the Morgan Plus 4. And that, I don't mean like the 70th year of the 911. Like, imagine Porsche was building the 67 911 now.
The same way. Same way.
Exactly.
It's like the original Beetle. How long was that built for? It's the same thing.
Was that 55 maybe? 60?
Yeah.
Because the Morgan wasn't continuous. There's a couple gaps. That's why the Beetle gets all the glory there.
I thought it was continuous. I guess
they took a couple of years off in the 90s. They took a couple of years off, and they took a couple of years off in the 70s as well. But yeah.
And the family finally sold now, right? So they're like a minority owner now, and it was always a bummer to me to hear, but hopefully that allows them to continue their business. And
whatever they're doing,
Morgans.
I hope it works because the cars are awesome, and apparently they have an all new chassis that is attempting to get homologated for the U.S. in low volume. So that's good.
Yeah, that's very cool.
What else from the show have really stood out to you? Because that's a tough one to beat. Shelby's personal Pantera.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned just a minute ago, one of the craziest show rods of all time, Bob Reisner's bathtub, which kind of launched and kind of identified the whole show rod genre, which is just basically taking an engine and hot rod and putting the craziest thing you can imagine. So that's literally whatever people were building, crazy things, crazy cars out of everything back then. Pool tables, phone booths. I mean, just stupid things you can't even imagine. So
this is like the Ed Roth style of hot rodding, where it's
this is a wholly different genre. This is show rod. So literally, I'm sitting on a toilet and two bathtubs, and that's where the passengers ride.
That's amazing.
So, with a big Hemi engine between us.
Oh, so dude, I want to drive that.
That is so dangerous.
That is the scariest per mile an hour I've ever gone in my life.
Yeah. So that's like a Woodward Dream Cruise build, basically.
Yeah, that was nuts. So then for tonight's episode, we're actually doing George Barris's Little Red Wrecker. So I'm actually wearing my George Barris t-shirt today in honor of George the King.
Cool. Nice.
Actually, the kind of bittersweet. Last time I wore this shirt was at his funeral. Unfortunately, God bless him. God rest his soul. George Barris.
What is the Little Red Wrecker?
Heroes,
oh wow!
idols.
Look at that thing. Wow, is that an actual functional tow truck?
It could tow something. It is a functional hot rod, and that thing drives and is one of the most dangerous cars that could ever be driven. So that's pre-restoration right there. That was a remake. So that was the third version of Little Red Wrecker. This tonight's episode is about TV and movie cars. And this was the car that was Red Fox's, and it was meant to be when in Sanford and Son. I'm sure you watched that as a kid growing up, if you're anywhere near my age. But Sanford and Son, I love that TV show. And this was going to be the episode where Red Fox won the lottery. And this was going to be the ultimate tow truck that he got.
Oh, my God.
Unfortunately, that episode never happened. The show ended. Red Fox quit. And this car never got its 15 minutes of fame. So we're going to give it its 15 minutes of fame, hopefully tonight. And we restored it back to when it was going to be on Sanford and Son.
So wait, really, but as we were looking at it, there, it looks, it's amazing. Crushed velour and this like cantilevered front cabin there, and is that the Sanford and Son there, Zach? Let Bo see that one too. It looked a little more future-y, whereas this one I think we've got pulled up is a little plainer with like regular kind of headlights in it and stuff. It's a really wild design. It's
pretty cool.
I don't even know how to describe it, but it looks awesome.
Yeah, that it's in the other car that we work on in this show is the Batmobile. So, the George Barris definitive, TV and movie car. The one that kind of like, launched that every TV show had to have its own car kind of a thing. So,
I drove one of the replicas of that once. It was funny.
What?
When you drive those Batmobiles, I drove one for a TV show once.
Yeah,
and they're hilarious because they drive like kind of just normal old cars until you go to make a left turn, and you realize it has half a steering wheel.
Yes, exactly.
You go to grab something that's not there,
and it weighs about 8 tons, and it just etches over a little bit at a time.
What's your favorite Batmobile though?
What?
What's your favorite Batmobile is the question.
Well, the George Barris original Batmobile, that has to be number one. I wasn't a huge fan of like the Batman Forever one, to be honest. But they all had their their moment.
The Batman Forever one is the one that was halfway between a dildo and a Gillette razor, right?
It had
you said it on me.
I like the Tim Burton Batman. The Tim Burton Batman is my jam.
Cool, very cool. seen one of those, haven't driven that, but those are actually, you can make those street legal, which is beyond crazy.
Well, Jeff Dunham's got
that's the kind of. Now, at the same
convertible.
time, I appreciate all automotive art in some way, shape, or form, and it's.
You're allowed to have an opinion, Bo. It's okay. You don't have to hedge your loathing of a Batmobile.
I got to be honest. That was the toughest one.
This movie, in general, everything was over the top. So I don't think the car wasn't standing out in that crowd like, whoa, the car went nuts, but the costumes are very reserved.
Yeah,
like,
they put nipples on the costumes.
Nipples, you had Mr. Freeze. Like, it was just all out of control.
On the costume? That explains that Batmobile. Then.
Exactly.
So there you go. But then, like, the tumbler, I thought the tumbler was super cool.
Yeah.
And like very original. It didn't follow some formula or try to be something from the past. It created its own future, which I really love. So I admire that very much. So yeah, I mean, the whole Batman series has great cars all the way through.
The tumbler was good because it actually was like practical. It wasn't just like, this is a jet engine, but it goes pretty much normal car speeds.
Right. No, Tumbler seemed like it fit a narrative. It's like, I could see that actually working as a military, experimental vehicle.
Exactly.
And that's what I dig about it.
But I totally get you because like Motorama era, 50s concept cars were also the shit.
Oh, man, those are some of the coolest cars in the world, man, in my opinion.
Do you have any of those in the collection? I always get really excited when I would see those go at like Barrett Jackson and stuff when it was like that Pontiac Banshee concept and that stuff was so great.
Did you see that Pontiac Banshee concept is for sale at a Kia dealership?
Yes.
What's up with that, man?
I don't know. We could also say that like, this Carroll Shelby's personal Pantera is for sale at a Ford dealer. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You could say that too.
I love that.
Look how cool this is.
Gorgeous.
Pontiac Banshee concept, and I guess a Kia dealer somewhere's got it in their collection, and they want like 700 G's for it or something.
I mean, it's like a better looking C3 Corvette, which I think is a very good looking car. That's just... it has like Opel GT lights kind of.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it has a little bit of that kind of Opel GT
I like the hard top,
doesn't it?
man.
It also reminds me of the Fitch Phoenix. Do you remember that one? John Fitch, who was the safety guy, he built a car that he tried to sell through GM called the Fitch Phoenix, and it looks
okay. You got to pull that one up. I got to see that.
This might be even too nerdy. Because he lived right by Lime Rock. Oh, that's it. And
nothing's too nerdy.
He lived right up by Lime Rock, and so I would see him driving it around up until he was very old. I guess in hindsight, it doesn't look that much like it. You know that thing?
That's super cool. I don't know what that is.
You see the double spare tires behind the front wheels? It's very Le Mans.
How do you get the tires in or out?
You pop the engine bonnet like a clamshell, the front bonnet, and the tires are just in there.
This is a interesting looking car.
Yeah.
It is. How long is that hood? This is very Lagonda.
It's about the size of a C3 Corvette.
The hood is the size of a C3 Corvette
underneath it. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
So is that like a kit car?
No, this guy, John Fitch, very famous for his innovations in safety and motorsports, racing, the Fitch barriers, that kind of stuff. He wanted to build a car with GM, and they got a couple of prototypes together. They might have built 2 or 3. I think the one we're looking at on the screen is Fitch's personal car. It looks like the same color. And it just never happened. They never sold any cars, but he kept one of the prototypes and kept driving it for the whole rest of his life.
That is super cool.
Yeah, I don't know where they're at now, but if you went to Lime Rock Park, which was my local track back in New York, you'd see him all the time driving it around up there at races and stuff, and yeah, it was cool.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's the perfect car for your collection, honestly.
So you just saw this dude driving his own car.
Yeah, and I was younger, and I was like, "Who the fuck is that guy?" And they're like, "That's John Fitch." And I'm like, "Who the fuck is John?" I didn't understand it until later, but yeah, there. Look at that. That's a great picture.
That is so
Fitch
cool.
Phoenix.
When I was growing up, and my dad was driving me to school, I used to see Madman Muntz on the freeway all the time, because Muntz, was right next door to Galpin. So good old Madman Muntz and I would never forget his like egg color, whatever you call that, off-white.
Yeah.
Months that he drove everywhere. That was so cool.
The off-white, man, that was the color of that era.
Yeah.
It's like just like chalk is going to be the color of our era, right? The blue-gray or the chalk color. That's the hot
and
shit,
matte
right?
black, unfortunately.
Matte black is like the 2000s.
You guys are talking about some of the trendier ones. Like, unfortunately, our era is gray, which is sad to
you know
say.
what?
It's like,
that is accurate.
we come out with these beautiful colors, and people walk into the dealership. Oh my gosh, I love that color. Does it come in gray?
Yeah.
And it's like, please. And you go out. That's one thing that kind of bumps me out a little bit about today. You go out on the freeway, and what do you see? It's like gray and black and white, and then when you see like a green or a yellow car, look how it pops. Like even red and blue pop now. But man, I would just encourage people, buy a car with a color in it.
I completely agree with you, dude. And colors aren't in a lot of cars. A cool color is like less expensive than you think if you're willing to wait just a little bit. Like I just had a Panamera, which is a very expensive car as a demo, but Mamba Green, which is the greatest color ever, was only $800. Like $800 is a lot of money, but on a $155,000 car, it's definitely not a lot of money. And so
worth it.
Yeah. For the record, Bo, I've bought 3 cars from you. 4 cars. Holy shit, I bought 4 cars from you, not 3. I bought an orange truck. I bought a red Volvo. And I've bought a blue Fiesta and a blue Focus. So I bought 4 cars from you in good colors.
Well, thank you, my friend. I think the Fiesta is the one I didn't know about.
Yeah, because I bought it from Matt Parsons, and I didn't get you involved.
I
didn't. You know why? It wasn't like the new shit. It hadn't just come out. It wasn't like I need the first one. It was like I just need one.
Because I remember your RS, man. I still love that car. RS is one of my all-time favorite cars. Focus RS, and believe it or not, this is going to sound weird, but one of my favorite cars to drive is a Fiesta ST.
Doesn't sound weird at all. I miss my Fiesta ST very much. It's the best car. It was the best car ever.
It was an ST.
Yeah, Fiesta ST.
Oh, you didn't say that part. What a great car, right?
Yes, the best car, and I liked it more than I liked the Focus RS by a pretty substantial margin. It was
isn't that weird? Because the not so secret back in the day is that people love the Fiesta ST more than the Focus ST. But to say liking it more than the RS, that's a statement. And, I'm right there with you. To me, the 2 cars, they're very close in how much I love driving them.
There's no substitute for
it's
weight,
so
dude.
Close.
The Fiesta ST was 2,700 pounds. There's no substitute for a sub 3,000 pound curb weight. And the Focus RS was fun, but it's like 3,500 pounds. You know what I mean? And it needed technology, and it needed a very stiff suspension to make that work.
Do you know which? I don't do this very often, but do you know which ST I actually found? Was the Auto Show ST done in Ford Blue.
The special color one?
Yeah, you know how they painted the whole lineup like
in the Ford GT color. Yeah.
And the Shelby and the Raptor and the RS and the STs.
Yeah.
And they painted them all the same color. So I actually found the Fiesta ST, and that's why. And it matches our Ford GT.
Oh, do you have it still?
Huh?
You have it still?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember seeing a story like a year or so ago. I think maybe it's the guy you bought it from, the guy who had it and was selling it.
It was a great story.
Yeah.
So, and it matches
awesome
our Ford GT, which to me, it just blows my mind. And believe it or not, those 2 cars are both like amazingly fun to drive back to back too. I mean, look, the Ford GT wins in any, that's nothing. It really compares to driving that. But Fiesta ST still amazing fun, even compared to a Ford GT.
Do you prefer driving on the street the last Ford GT or the current Ford GT? As a street car.
Oh, you know what? This new GT, you could drive it and forget it. You could drive it like a normal car, like an automatic car. I mean, with the last GT, at least it was a stick, right?
Yeah.
But this one, no, you could forget you're driving a GT. It's that it has that good of manners. And then you step on the gas, and then you remember you're driving a race car.
Does that going back to the Morgan though? Does that take away from the experience of driving that car unless you can step on it because you can forget you're in it?
I mean, when I shouldn't say it that way. You never forget. That thing is so.
I don't think you can really forget.
I mean, you're driving a race car. When I say you forget you're driving it, you don't have to constantly be worried about it. Does that make sense?
It won't bite you. The old one can bite you a little bit if you're not kind of careful.
Yeah, and this one you can sit in traffic and not even think about it, but you still know you're driving a Ford GT at every moment. So forgive me for saying you'd forget you're driving it. That every moment you're driving this car, you're loving driving this car. Even sitting in traffic, you're loving driving this car, even though you're angry or in traffic. But it is, it's easy to drive, I guess, in one way. But when you want it to be unbelievably fast and scary, it will be that for you too. It is, it's a race car. It's amazing.
Those two generations of cars really reflect the intended purpose. Like, I think with the last gen car, they were like, we're going to build the best road car ever. And at the time, I actually think that was the best road car you could buy.
I agree.
And now with the new one, they're like, we need to homologate something for Le Mans. So what do you know what I mean? And you drive the street car and you go, oh, well, this is a race car. Okay. All right. I see what you've done here. You have built a race car and it has a trunk that holds a Nazi war helmet and nothing else.
Well, it doesn't really hold that, but
it won't even.
But, Raj Nair and the team, they worked on this literally in the basement of Ford Motor Company. And that's what's so brilliant about it is the road car and the race car were developed side by side. The race car being the intended, the race car is purely a race car. And then when they built the road car next to it, they just figured out how to work around the race car to, put things to make it homologated and street legal. So it is a pure race car that just has then things that make it road legal on it. But it's a race car.
Yeah, they had two race cars and then they just added reflectors to one of them, and they put on a sticker that said license plate goes here, and they were like, we've converted to a streetcar, gentlemen.
Yeah, there really isn't anywhere good on a Ford GT for a license plate. Actually, it's it's really funny when they don't even try. Like, you got to screw the tow hook in, and that's where the license plate goes or whatever.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about that front license plate on a Ford GT. That would just
you pay the cost to be the boss. That's how it works with the supercars. You know what I mean? Although I don't know about you because you're in the business, but I had a friend who would take a scan of the license plate and then printed me a sticker that was an image of the license plate that was a sticker that I put on the front. And while not a substitute necessarily for a front plate, definitely a substitute for nothing, which is the alternative that I would have gone with. And I've had a couple of cops tell me that was an acceptable and creative solution and that they were cool with that.
To me, and I'm not sure technically on the law, but if they can read your license plate to get their tax revenue for going on the roads and tolls, and cops can find you, then it probably is legal. And if they can't, it's probably not, would be my guess.
Yeah.
But as long as they can get their money and find you, it's probably cool.
Yeah. I got, not that I got a written approval, but it was for a car where you don't want to put a front plate on, a sticker, not a terrible plan.
It's a pretty good idea.
It's a great idea.
Can I ask you how business is with the fucking shutdown and all this? Are you allowed to sell cars and work on cars? Are you guys essential? What's the story?
We have been deemed essential, which is a strange term. We have been continuing to run service even through the COVID shutdown. And as an essential business, cars need to be on the road, and we have been continuing to service cars. The mayor did clarify we are selling cars online now. So we had actually just developed an online buying tool for Galpin, which, the timing worked out well. So someone can literally go on galpin.com, find their car, put in some information, get all the pricing, get their financing, and literally buy the car online today. We deliver it to the home, and everything is disinfected. All the cars, when they're in for service, they get disinfected coming in. Everyone's in masks and gloves. They get disinfected going out. So we have measures for everything coming in the door and going out of the door. So we've adapted the way we do business, and it's going to be like this for a period of time. And this is going to be our kind of new normal for a while.
Are
So
people
while we
like
can't,
buying
we're not
cars
having
right
customers
now?
come in the
Sorry.
showroom, we can bring the cars to you.
Are people buying right now? I mean, what is it kind of like? I feel like I don't. If I wanted a car right now, would I go buy a car right now? I don't even know.
Well, they're like, for example, some of the manufacturers like Ford, no payments for 6 months. So if your manufacturer is still making you make your payments, someone say, well, I'll trade that car in and then not make payments for 6 months when we, hopefully are getting our way out of this thing. Other people need vehicles. I mean, and other people, look, they continue to work and they're in essential businesses and look, their income isn't really affected and they're out buying cars. So over the weekend, we sold probably what would be a normal day for us, pre-virus. We sold like maybe 50 cars over the weekend.
Oh, wow.
Normally we
cars.
sell a few hundred. So it's, there's still a few people buying a car. Now, service numbers, here's what's crazy. We're still servicing a couple hundred cars a day. So it's a pretty decent volume that's coming in for service. But that's still, 40-50% of the business that we'd normally have.
Yeah.
So, but, people are bringing in their recalls that they have, safety recalls. It's not a bad time to get it done. We can actually pick up and deliver for service as well. So we're still doing business because business still needs to be done.
Oh, man. I bet who's in good business right now? Flatbed manufacturers.
Oh, yeah.
Every dealer's got to do touchless delivery. So it's like the flatbed manufacturers have got to be cranking them out.
Yeah, well, and the disinfectant makers, we have it's pretty impressive now. We have these whole fog machines that come in and like fog the entire dash and everything. So when we deliver cars, I mean, it's literally going to be the cleanest environment you have is going to be the inside of your car.
Wow.
Once you get it back, so and that's going to be how it is from now.
We're about a month away from having so much hand sanitizer everywhere. Like all these chemical companies and everyone is pivoting to hand sanitizer, and it takes a couple weeks to get it going or whatever. We're about to have a flood of hand sanitizer.
Ralph's had a display. It was like $2 and it was 16 ounces. Whereas 2 weeks ago, $0.
Yeah.
I think body sanitizers, just spraying it all over your whole self.
Axe body sanitizer.
Yes, exactly.
That's an SNL skit right there.
Be good,
Zach. Like
be
the
clean.
The full hazmat shower.
Be bad, but be clean.
Yeah.
Axe.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
That might work. Who knows?
Yeah.
The only virus you'll catch with this is if you have sex. Axe body spray.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions on the super chat, Zach, specifically for Bo before we let him cruise out, and we can do our own normal thing? Bo, while Zach is looking, when can people catch Car Kings on Discovery?
Well, every Monday night, and the time varies and changes. Like on ours direct, it starts at 7 o'clock tonight, and then a second time at 11 o'clock. Other places it's on at 10 o'clock tonight, but it's on Discovery Car Kings on Monday nights.
All right.
And then it's on Discovery Go. You can buy it on Amazon. So it's everywhere now, which is cool.
It's tough to plug, though. You used to be able, when it was Pimp My Ride, just be like, Thursdays at 8. Mm-hmm. Now it's like, all right, where is it? Well, it's a long story.
Yes. Well, and they moved the time, so that kind of changed things. They changed the name from Driven to Car Kings. Then they changed the time. So, they're a little bit of a moving target. But and also a lot of people are streaming now, which is why the name was changed, because there's also a Driven golf show that people couldn't. Oh. They were DVRing the wrong show and everything, so that's why they changed it to Car Kings.
Two layers of disappointment there.
Yes.
I'm 20 minutes in, and there is no mention of Titleist yet. I am very confused.
You guys should do a crossover episode.
I would love to.
Really
that'd be great. We'll build anything.
No, but having been in TV as long as you have, that sounds like TV, doesn't it?
Okay, there's all kinds of ways to make things fun and interesting. To me, as long as we got cars involved, we can figure out how to have fun with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so tonight I'm really excited. It's one of my favorite episodes, which is the George Barris episode with Lil Red Wrecker and the Batmobile, and honoring George's legacy with Joji. And it's just a fun episode. And if you like hot rods, even if you don't even like cars, which every one of your listeners obviously likes cars, but it's kind of something that I think the whole family could enjoy, along if you're a total car fanatic like we are. So try to get something that's kind of fun for both of us.
You mentioned before that was the Red Wrecker was the second scariest vehicle, second to the toilet bathtub combo. What made it so scary?
Dude, there's like a, there's a Hemi, like literally like an inch from your back. You got to just see it. It's terrifying.
That looks so scary. Like the belts are spinning, I don't know, 4 inches behind you. Like if your hair was 6 inches longer, you might be in a very bad situation.
I let Dave drive that one in. It's that severe.
That's awesome.
I have my own creative way of driving the car tonight because it is literally the most terrifying car I think possibly conceived. So there's a creative way I have of driving the car around tonight that's kind of cool. That actually is probably one of my favorite parts that we've done. So you just have to check it out. So
someone
got that.
Oh.
And then we got a coming up, we do a Big Daddy Roth episode and bring back the Wishbone, which was his most hated vehicle. He, a creation that was hated by its creator, but at the same time, it's really super cool. And then we do a Brubaker box. So we're doing some fun stuff.
Brubaker boxes are amazing. They are the coolest. And why did Ed Roth hate the Wishbone? It looks like a real cool little three-wheeler.
It is it has 4 wheels.
Oh, it does have 4 wheels?
It looks like a three-wheeler because it has that kind of vibe to it. Because it very much was like the trikes of his day. And he was building trikes at the time, so it does have that kind of trike vibe to it. But simple, he couldn't make money from it. Revving, the model kit company, was how he made money, and they rejected it because of its complexity up front in that suspension and with the things that point out that they feared kids would pluck their eyeballs out with. So Revving declined to make it as a toy. So he cut it in half and threw it in the garbage.
Wow,
that's true. For the people not on the video, it's basically a more. If you took the tub from a Polaris slingshot and put bayonets on the front of it, that's pretty much.
It kind of looks like the land speeder.
Yes.
When you have it at eye level.
Star Wars land speeder with wheels on it. Yeah. Is that a driver?
Except it has pointy out front instead of a rounded front. But yeah, the two bubbles that are there for the driver and the passenger, and you kind of like lay back in the thing when you're driving it. It's horrifying to drive.
Where is the engine?
It's in the back. It's,
is that it?
Air-cooled Volkswagen. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Zach just found a picture of the engine, and it won't come up all the way, but it's really jammed in there, huh? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's so cool looking.
I think it's pretty
great
cool,
color,
yeah.
Cool shape.
It looks amazing from the side profile. The side profile is really where it's at.
Yeah, it really is. And designed by Newt, who also... designed Little Red Wrecker and Orbitron and, a lot of Roth cars. And as you can see there, he also designed that crazy Roach coach in the middle. But, man, this was an amazing car. Also, what I was going to say is, went from hot rods having American V8s to now having a Volkswagen, air-cooled four-banger in there, which was not traditionally thought of as a hot rod, right?
Yeah, although now I think they've come around to that kind of stuff, huh? Especially in Southern California.
But back in the day, that was kind of unheard of.
When was that thing built?
1968.
Oh, yeah, okay. When did Myers-Manx's start becoming cool? McQueen had one in what was the movie Thomas Crown Affair, right? Was that 68, 69?
Yeah, I want to say it was 1964 when Bruce Myers started producing them.
Okay.
And, what another legendary guy. I'd love to build a Myers-Manx. I'm ready for that project.
I drove a Myers-Manx. It made way more sense to me than any Beetle I've ever driven. It was like, I get this now. This powertrain works with a bathtub. This is good.
Exactly.
Zach, we had one question for Bo.
Yeah, we had two specifically for Bo. One just asked, what's the most interesting car you've driven? It sounds like you've driven a bunch of crazy stuff, so...
The most interesting car I've driven is an 1897 Leon Bolet. And
I've never even heard of that. But 1897 sounds like it's barely a car, if I had to guess.
It was a three-wheelered automobile. His father, Amédée Bollé, actually I credit with, or I shouldn't say I think is credited with the first production automobile, but it was steam powered, so it didn't get recognized. And it is in also some opinion, in my opinion, the Leon Bollé was the first sports car. And there it is, as you can see. And there's a lot of reasons that I believe that this was the first sports car. So it had a low center of gravity. It was specifically built for speed and specifically built for races. And actually was in the first London to Brighton run in 1896, where the Leon Bollés came in first and second place, but were discredited because they broke the rules or something like that and didn't stop for tea. And the British didn't like that. So
sounds about right.
Sounds like they didn't like that they were French.
It's basically a bench, footrest, a tiller, and an engine on a trailer.
It's like a three-wheeler with two seats.
That actually is a form of rack and pinion steering that's in there. The passenger sits up front and works as the bumper, and the driver sits in the back.
Seems fair.
Holy shit, that's a scary looking thing.
Yeah, it's fighter pilot seating.
You need two people to operate that, or can you do it with one?
No, you can do it with one.
Wow.
The passenger is just along for the ride.
That's cool. Do you have one in the collection?
We do. So that's how I got to drive it.
Yeah. You can just kind of take that out if you want. That's awesome. That's
pretty
so
cool.
Yeah, that qualifies. Most interesting vehicle. Yeah. I've never even heard of that before.
And that has one of the most interesting stories that we'll tell sometime. But Leon Bollé was a pioneer in computing automobiles and airplanes, and no one's ever heard of him.
Yeah, I mean that. I feel like there's probably a movie in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, we'll tell the story sometime. It's a fascinating story.
I mean, I don't have anywhere to go. Do you want to? You want to tell it? Tell it.
Well, it takes a while to tell the story, but
all right.
he
we'll schedule it.
He's a really brilliant guy that pioneered. His father pioneered automobiles along with himself, and he also pioneered aeronautics in France. So, and he built really the second working computer in Europe. So he was this kind of brilliant man that hasn't got the credit yet that he deserves. And that's one of the things on the show is we try to bring out these stories of people that really had a significant impact in history that people have forgotten, and it's time to remember them.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go on a Wikipedia rabbit hole tonight about this guy. Now I got time. Leon Bollé, check him out.
I don't know if you know Jason Torchinsky from Jalopnik, but he's got a lot of early automotive history that I've learned from, and the Bollés, and you can learn a lot from him. And Jason wrote a great book as well about transportation and future technology that's really cool as well. That kind of starts at the horse and buggy days. But some great stories. So, yeah, good history there and fun.
I'm going to dig into that one later. Torchinsky is a good resource for old weird stuff, for sure.
He knows more about the unknown weird stuff than anyone.
And Aaron Robinson,
and he does it such a funny way.
as well, I think is a good resource for extreme nerdery, and Aaron Gold.
Yeah.
What was the other one, Zach?
The only other one was have any of us ever driven a Shelby Series 1?
I have not driven a Shelby Series 1.
I haven't either, but I'd really like to.
Me too.
I got a hankering.
Mm-hmm.
First
I was
one
always
of us
disappointed
to buy one.
use an Oldsmobile engine, and that just kind of I just wanted it to be a Ford so bad. It looks good, but I've yet to drive one.
Maybe for an episode, maybe you swap in like a Coyote motor or something, right? Because there's a dual overhead cam Oldsmobile motor, I think.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good looking car. I mean, I think he
really
actually did a pretty good job with it. I mean, it was definitely for the mid 90s. I think it was pretty spot on.
Yeah.
I think so too, but it never caught on, and I have to think that has something to do with the way that it drove. Only because I've never driven it, so I have no reason to else believe. I know it kind of came out during the recession, and it didn't quite. It was one of those kind of supercar disappointments. I think to some degree, like the Jaguar XG220, people thought it was going to be a V12, and then it was a supercharged V6. So, I don't know. It was somehow it got lost in the shuffle, and I still don't quite understand why.
Maybe there was just too many cars out at that time, and I don't know.
Well, I mean, also if you're like paying homage to the Cobra, you need to have something that like lands as hard as it does. So I think to your point, Bo, that if it had any missteps in performance, it's like that's not what this is supposed to do. It's supposed to knock them out of the park.
And you couldn't land that performance in that day and age the way that you did back in the 60s. Or, it just wasn't the ability to do so unless you had stupid Volkswagen Bugatti money at that time. And also, I think, just to reflect on it for a moment, that was really before Shelby's comeback in a way. I mean, he still had his fan base, but he wasn't like the huge kind of legend that we think of him now. He hadn't come back to Ford until 2007, 2006 was really, when he came back to Ford. So back in the 90s, he hadn't come back to Ford. He hadn't a Chrysler following, and then he used a GM engine. So maybe that had something to do with it too.
I think that's definitely possible. And also 1998, he's competing with the Viper, which he's already kind of wink, put his name on.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Objectively, now it's a funny oddball piece of history, but if you're looking to spend $100,000 on an American Roadster in 1998, you're going to buy this sort of unknown thing with an Oldsmobile motor. You're going to buy the Dodge Viper, which it was already sold as the new Cobra,
Yes, exactly.
And actually kind of lived up to that reputation a little bit. As it had been out for 6 years already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but they're cool. One day I would love to spend a half hour driving one to see what it's like.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you on that.
Thank you for your time, Bo. I appreciate it. When we're allowed to see each other in person again, I want to come take another tour of the collection. But until then, Car King's on Discovery Channel and streaming. I want to dig into this Pantera thing. That looks great. I'm super stoked.
And check it out on Galpin.com or GalpinAutosports.com, and you can check out the shows on Discovery Go. Look at me plugging myself. Hey, huh?
Hey,
you know what, dude? I like
pro.
hearing you. I feel like I hear from you more often than I do because you do your own commercials. So I hear you on the radio, and I'm like, hey, Bo's doing all right. I know what you got for sale. And if anyone in LA is Bo and Galpin, they are the enthusiasts dealership. They have an on-site tuning shop, gas, and you can get approved mods. So you can motor legally in California with modified Mustangs and F-150s and all kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, street legal horsepower, and we do everything from building hot rods and everything in between. Just wheels and tires, audio. Basically, if you can dream it, we can build it, is what we say, and it's really true. As long as it's legal, we can do it.
There it is, and they got a good restaurant, the Horseless Carriage. While you're
my favorite restaurant.
They got a great burger and fries. They really do. They have an actual restaurant on
and get
site.
it to go. And we're delivering. Support your local business.
Are you guys really doing delivery? Good for you.
Yeah, we are.
Good for you, man.
We're on Grubhub and doing deliveries and pickup.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, if you're in the valley, man, do it. They're great.
We should eat there after a canyon drive. After a one take.
Yeah, we'll go film and then we'll eat in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll bring it out to you. We're doing all the jobs we started off doing, so I'm happy to be a waiter. I'll take it out to you. It'll be like a drive-in.
Totally. Bo Bachman, ladies and gentlemen. Who am I kidding? Gentlemen. From Galpin Auto Sports, Car Kings on Discovery. Thank you very much, sir. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye. See you later.
Oh, man. Bo's a good dude. I like having him on the show.
Dude.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. That's cool. Like having him call in. I'm going to check out that show. That Pantera thing sounds rad.
I really like those cars.
They're great. Remember Dave's?
I think they're gorgeous. Ugh. Dave's is great.
Yeah.
I think the shape is excellent. I just like the attitude of them.
And I remember the story of the prototype one, but I fucking I could have swore the story that I heard it was a V10. That they put a V10, the Viper V10, in the back of the Pantera to test it because they originally thought the Viper might be mid-engine. I didn't know that it was a twin-turbo V8.
Which is crazy. Crazy
Would
pants.
the Viper have been better if it... I should have asked Bo that, having experienced the engine. Would the actual production Viper have been better had they gone with that engine?
I'm going to say no, only because I don't think turbo technology back then would have delivered the kind of feel that it could be better than the 10. I think the 10 did a lot. It was a really good engine.
And it kept it separate. It gave it its own character, separate from the Corvette.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We know what twin turbo like V8s feel like and sound like, and I think the 10 is really interesting.
Yeah,
and people love it.
I drove that Callaway Corvette. It was like an 88.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that thing?
Yeah.
And it was like 575 horsepower at 5,100 RPM. It was like a diesel.
How did the power? Did the power band kick on at like 45?
You had power from you had power from 42 to 51.
Yeah,
and
that's no good.
Shift. It was fucking stupid. I mean, it was a novelty.
Right.
I could see its place in someone's collection. I think it would probably be fun in its own way as a fuck around street car.
I think that that verdict tells me what the Viper would have been if it had been twin turbo V8, and it would have just had a lot of asterisks of like, but all the conclusions would have ended with, but if you like that sort of thing, instead of what it was, which is like, this is fast and amazing and a competitor and all that other stuff.
Yeah. It's good, man.
But now turbos are good. Now they work.
They figured it out.
They did.
They
just needed computers.
Hey, before we get to those questions, we probably have some leftovers from...
We have a lot of those.
Yeah, we probably have some leftovers. I feel bad about some of our leftovers. And also, to finish up on this Morgan thing, I made a video, but some things that really surprised me about the Morgan, because Zach didn't really talk about it as much too. The fuel economy. This car gets a legitimate 45 miles a gallon. It gets like 35 in town. It gets 45 on the highway. It still probably gets in the high 20s to 30 when you're caning the shit out of it in the canyons. Like,
really?
Yeah.
I mean, I watched the gas gauge didn't move when I took it out. Which I couldn't believe.
Yeah.
Like, it's like
an 11-gallon tank, and you have a legitimate like 350 mile, 400 mile range. It's crazy. I mean, I guess it just shows you like 2,100 pounds. Like, it just doesn't weigh anything. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't even need the sixth gear. At first, I was like, doesn't have a sixth gear, and then I was like, well, what would the sixth gear get me? Like, nothing really.
Did you see the Speedo goes to 150? And I was like, I don't think so, and I hope not.
I tested the Speedo against my phone because I didn't trust it.
Okay.
It seemed optimistic. I was like, there's no fucking way I'm going 85 right now. And it was about 8 miles an hour optimistic on the Speedo, which is fine. I don't give a shit. It's better that than the other way.
Yeah, that car is not about that. I was going under the speed limit most of the time. Because it was like, I'm putting along. I'm also not trying to get an accident because there's no bumper.
Yeah,
like I'm just enjoying.
There's a lot
of
ways to die in a car like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. But it's gorgeous though. It's really gorgeous.
I drove it in the forest this morning, and I went up early, and I was by myself, and I was not hampered by anybody. It's a great 7/10 car. I don't want to be pushing the limits of anything. And even on one of the big turnout areas, I tried to do a couple little, what's have yous. Mm-hmm. It doesn't like that.
It didn't seem like it would.
It's got an open diff and a solid axle, and it just didn't like any of that kind of funny business. But at a 7/10, get outside, be one with the open world, and really have an experience, looking out over that hood. It's fucking great.
It is. It's beautiful.
It's great. It's so fun.
But driving it quickly, these steering, like, it's like driving a video game wheel before force feedback was invented. I mean, it really,
it's weird.
It really is like 5%. If a really good car gives you 100% steering feedback or 100 points, this gives you 5 to 8. Like, it's really low.
You really don't know what's going on at the front tires.
Nope.
The front tires are really far away from you. You're sitting on the back tires. The front and rear tires can be doing something completely different in this car.
Yeah.
And they have very different suspension geometries too. So the rear is just bouncy, and the front is trying to find grip, but there's no weight on it. And it's just really strange. So you kind of have to brake or at least like lift to transfer the weight forward to get it to turn. So
yeah,
it took me a while to kind of really get a flow going. I drove it a lot, And by the end, I was like, all right, I kind of got this. And I was kind of mobbing a little bit. But it's very, very, very close. It's like a very old car. I mean,
you're driving by sight. Like, you're watching the front turn, and you're like, that's how much I'm turning. I had a really great test for the front suspension. I was driving on Highway 1, and it was next to a 720S. And I say to my girlfriend, I'm like, okay, look at our front end and look at his, and that's how you know how different our suspension is. She goes, what? And the front of the car, of the Morgan, and I'm going to go to my camera for this, is just going like this.
Yeah.
It's just a small 2-inch pogo constantly. His car is not moving whatsoever. And she's like,
the nose of the car or the front wheel, the front tire?
The nose of the Morgan is the hood.
Yeah.
The eye line was just changing. So
yeah,
it's weird.
I mean, it's real bouncy. I was kicked off the seat like many, many times. And yet my back doesn't really hurt.
No,
actually.
comfortable seat. The inflatable, is that Recaro? Do they make that? The inflatable
I don't know
lumbar?
who makes it, but I got a video of it there's a little squeeze bulb and you inflate the lumbar.
I've used it, but Recaro makes a race seat or a sports seat that also has that.
Oh, really?
Instead of the motor. That's where I first saw it at BBI. I think they had one of those seats there, which is clever.
Yeah. It might be them, yeah. But I, for the video, because I filmed by myself and I had to take my shoes off to drive it. So I go up to the Angeles Forest and I'm fully, dressed, but I'm wearing flip-flops. So to do the video, I probably had to take my flip-flops on and off like 30 times today, this morning. Like, it was so annoying. And I've never felt so strange as like climbing up an embankment to set up a fucking camera. There's like bushes all over and flip-flops. I'm like, what the fuck? This is so stupid.
Like, I've noticed the shots getting more creative, and I appreciate it, but now I understand that, in flip-flops, there's places you've been where you shouldn't go.
Yeah, and I'm like getting stabbed by stuff. There's broken glass all over the parking lots.
Yeah,
like,
snakes coming out.
Yeah, so like driving the car barefoot is fine, but like living with a car that you can't drive with shoes on, you've got to be prepared for. I loved it fucking so much, though. Like, I had such a nice time with it. Like, driving to the studio and driving home, and like, it just made every little drive pretty nice.
Yeah, it did. And the way they've appointed this one in the interior is really great.
There should be an interior shot of it there. Yeah,
like it's got a lot of leather. The leather feels nice, and then the bright aluminum work. The
everything
gauges
in this
look really
photo
good.
is optional.
I believe it. I mean, a stripped down one, whatever. You're still getting the driving experience, but it just the dash. Like, I think the dash is gorgeous. The gauges they picked that have very small screens in the bottom to give you information. Like, those are a really good example of, like, I feel like when hot rod aesthetic and technology merge.
Yeah.
And it's got like brushed aluminum buttons for the fog lights and stuff. It's really good.
It's simple, but it works and it looks nice, and it's actually put together pretty well. There's rattles and shit when you drive because it's a 70-year-old design, but it's actually the leather's nice. It's screwed together nicely.
I never tried the stereo USB didn't work for playback through an iPhone.
It didn't work.
But how do you reach the volume once you're in the car? Once you're sitting in the car,
you literally there is a stereo in this car. The head unit is in a place that you cannot see, and in some cases you cannot reach.
It's almost as far as the pedals, and it's in the center on the transmission tunnel underneath the dash. That's where it is.
Yeah, it's very dumb, and that's optional. The speakers are optional. I can't. All I can say is if I was going to get one, I'd just make it a Bluetooth receiver of some kind, and I wouldn't even have a head unit. Frankly,
it's like having is it what they called a gramophone, where it was a record player with a horn. I imagine those had one volume.
Yeah.
That's what this feels like. You get it and you hit play, and then you start driving.
I managed to go an entire week no radio. Didn't use it once.
It's got a fun putt-putt sound. It's got a good sound.
It has a great idle. Yeah, it's got some fucking header on it that really sounds zing.
I think they did some creative exhaust work, kind of like the Fiat Abarth.
Like, where it just doesn't have a muffler.
Right. Yeah. I think that's because that's why it sounds that way. But it's probably a mission.
They have really nailed the vintage sound.
They did.
It sounds fucking cool. So it's a Focus engine. It's a 2-liter Focus engine. It's like 160 horsepower, but like it's just gonna work. It's gonna start. Like, it's not like the 3-wheeler where it's an air-cooled motorcycle engine and it's all this crazy weird shit going on. This is a fairly normal car, I mean, it's simple, but it's an engine and a shifter and a frame. That's the new one right there.
That's the new one.
That's not the one we have. That's the new one. So you can see the airbag steering wheel in that and all
And
that
this also
kind of stuff.
has the center console is different here than the one we had.
It's an entirely new chassis, the new one. We literally have like the last one of the old one. But it's I don't remember. It's not a pain in the ass. I mean, it's like, yeah, okay, no roof and no windows, but like it's not like it idles weird or it overheats or like you can just start it and fucking drive and whatever. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? It's great.
Did you open the engine compartment for a shot?
Yes, I did.
The springs are very stiff.
They are.
The engine on the left side, at least, driver's side. I wish I hadn't opened the hatch, just because it's not a dressed up Ford motor.
No,
it's just
a Ford motor.
Right. It's just plastic intake, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it kind of, for a moment, it ruined it, and then I closed it, and everything was fine.
Yeah. If you open the right side, the passenger side, because it's it's like old school. It's like you'd open the fucking side, like gull wing bonnets. On the right side, you get the header.
Okay.
You know, it's a little prettier on the right side.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, not impressive under there.
Yeah.
But highly functional.
And if you are a Morgan motorist, which is what you are, you do not open that hood. Someone opens it for you and fixes it.
Yeah. Morgan
That's how
West.
I felt driving it.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was, dude, such a cool car. And then I ran into a friend of mine who is a big Porsche collector. He lives up the road from me. He saw it, me driving it. He goes, "Hey, did you get that from Dennis?" And Dennis is the Morgan West guy. And I go, "Well, it's the press car." He goes, "Me and my 3 best friends all just bought them."
Really?
Yeah. The reason there aren't a lot of Morgans here is not because nobody buys them. There's very limited the number they can bring into this country. But these 3 rich guys just bought a trio of them, all paint to sample with the everything. Same car. They were very excited, except they all got the V6.
Oh, okay.
You can get the Mustang V6.
I thought it was the BMW inline 6. And the new one it is.
The new one is. They got the last allocations of the outgoing ones with the Mustang engine.
Which I think, does it have a manual, the one they got?
Yeah.
Good, because the new one looks like,
it has
in their
optional.
gallery.
It has both.
Is it optional?
Yeah,
Okay,
optional 8-speed auto and optional 6-speed manual.
Okay. All the photos in the gallery were the auto, which is just a BMW shifter. So
there's the entirely new chassis that they're calling a CX. It's a bonded aluminum chassis. It's not the steel ladder frame like it was. And it's a new interior, so we're looking at it here, and you can see the same steering wheel that they use in the Lotus Evora. There's also a BMW shifter there. And the new cars have BMW engines, either the turbocharged 4 or I think the turbo 6. The Plus 6 is supposed to have the super motor in it, and supposedly is fucking lunacy.
that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. This comes with a B58.
Yeah.
Oof.
That's just crazy in a car like this. That's going to be fucking, yeah.
That'll be quite an experience to drive.
Yeah, but those are not homologated just yet for the U.S., so they're going to homologate these under the low volume thing, right? So 300 a year to the U.S., which is cool. But for now, if you want a Morgan in the U.S. for the rest of this year, you have to get one of the older ones, either the Roadster, which is what they call the one with the Mustang engine, or the Plus 4, which is the 4-cylinder engine, and you order them through Morgan West, and they come separate, like the powertrains arrive in crates, and they assemble them the rest of the way when they get here.
Got it.
That's how they do it. That's how they do that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it was, you know what it did for me? It made me appreciate and understand people that like driving Volkswagen Beetles a little bit, or like any car that the general car world appreciates. Like, I got thumbs up from supercar owners, muscle car owners, lowrider people, like everybody, guys on Harleys, like just whoever. Everybody likes it.
If you're in a Morgan, you love fucking cars. There is you're not a poser. You didn't buy this because it's the new shit. You didn't see it on Instagram. You know what I mean? You love fucking cars.
But I think people in general just like it. They like the way it looks, even if they don't know what it is, because it's a good-looking thing. The color scheme on this one's really good, and it's just like it's kind of like a nice mechanical watch or something.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. Like right now, I'm wearing this Bell & Ross, right? And this is a Bell & Ross bronze diver, and this is actually a very appropriate comparison. Like, look, I'm going to hold this up. So it's the case is made of bronze. Okay, why is the case made of bronze? Because back in the day, when scuba diving was first like a thing, the crazy people that would go diving would dive in these bronze dive helmets, right? And like that's the thing.
Yeah.
So the bronze watch is the throwback to that, where it's like, I don't really want to go diving in a bronze dive helmet, but I want that little piece of vintage feel to my mod, you know. And so the Morgan is that, you know what I mean? It's
Totally.
but it's not a fake. It's not a replica Cobra. It's not, it's not a tribute. It's a real thing. Like even this watch it's bronze because of another thing that was bronze. It's kind of a tribute. It doesn't need to be bronze as part of its function. It could be steel. It would serve the same function, right? But it's that added bit of style. But like the Morgan, it's not a new thing trying to be the thing it used to be. It's just been the same the whole time. It's just never changed.
Yeah, you can't tell what year it is. Everybody was like, "What year is this? 75, 74?" It's like 2019.
Well, so pull up a picture of like a 67 Morgan Plus 4. I tried to find the exact year at which it started looking just like this. Like the 50s ones don't. But yeah, so look at the third picture, top row. Yes, so that's like a 67, and other than the bumpers being chrome, that's pretty much where it started to look. You could get a brand new one right now that looked exactly like that.
Crazy.
That's where it started to look just like it. So from 67 to now, like you really can't fucking tell. The wheels,
the window system, whatever you want to call it, is the same in this photo as the one that they gave us. Like it's these two awesome, like CNC cut aluminum knobs that somehow hold like the windows in a slider. I don't know. Not waterproof.
I didn't carry the windows or the roof with me the entire week. Not the roof. I'm sorry, the windows or the tonneau. I would only put the roof up to keep the sun from getting hot when I had to park somewhere and walk away because I didn't want to burn myself.
Yeah, totally.
Man, I go through a lot of sunscreen this week though.
I bet.
I was open air. I had a lovely time, even on the freeway. At like 65, 70, it's fantastic. Above 80, it starts to get real scary.
That's why when I saw the Speedo went to 150, I was like, I hope it can't.
No, it's gear limited to 118. That's where it runs out of fifth.
That would probably be.
Yeah.
You'd be awake. Maybe on a runway. Maybe.
Yeah. But even in the canyons, like I didn't want to like attack the corners, but just, motoring. It's motoring. Mm-hmm. I'm going for a spirited drive. It was good.
Yeah. I did some spirited uphill, and I was like, this is good. And then I started hearing front or rear wheel, not sure, like skipping a little, and I just went, okay, I can't feel any of that.
I got some lockup in the rear, in the passenger side rear, a little lockup.
Did you figure out the brakes? Are they manual or power?
They're not power.
They're not power.
The brakes are not power. Power is
grab
optional.
well. They're nice.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they're not power. It was by the end of the run this morning. I was having a really nice time. Nice. It was good.
It's motoring.
I think the video will be interesting.
Proper motoring, absolutely. Yeah. All right, let's hit some leftover questions before we get out of here. This is from a little while ago. This is Steve Vukotic. What is the better car for a rally or road trip, an R8 Performance or a 992 C4S?
Oh, well, I mean, I would say it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I mean, they're both excellent cars. An R8, as far as mid-engine cars go, it will be very comfortable. It'll have a great stereo. I mean, I chose an R8 for that Forza Horizon road trip where I got hired to like go across Europe with these video gamers, and we made a fake reality show. Don't even worry about it. But I got to pick my own car from a fleet of supercars, and I picked the R8, and it was the right car. I mean, look, a 992 Carrera 4S. I drove 1,500 miles across Europe. It's a phenomenal car. It's one of the best daily driver sports cars that money can buy, period. It will feel more normal. It's lovely. They're fantastic, but compared to an R8, the R8 will be more exciting all the time. But the R8 won't hold nearly as much stuff, so that may matter to you on a road trip.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Plus, the Porsche has back seats should you need them. Sort of.
Yeah. More space all around.
Backpack seat.
Yeah.
This is from Tim Brister. Oh, this is just actually a compliment. That was for Alex Roy, and we gave it to him. And we had two more, which, here we go, right in front of my face. Andrew King is getting ready to buy a fun daily driver for $45,000 or less. Wants to be comfortable, reliable enough to keep for many years. He's flexible on practicality. He's looking at the SS or a Stinger GT 1.2. Are there other good options?
Those are both good options. I mean, the SS, if you're talking about the Chevy SS, is you're looking at the end of a very long run. The SS started as the Pontiac G8, which before that was the Holden Commodore. They built that platform for a very long time, and the SS was the end of it. So it's going to be a proven thing. Plus, it's an LS powertrain. It's in general robust. The Kia Stinger. I've not driven one. Do you drive a Stinger?
Yeah, a couple times.
You like it, right?
I do like it. It's soft in the corners, but it's like you get so much car for the money.
Yeah,
and it's good looking outside. I think the interior is pretty nicely appointed and good looking.
I drove
enough.
the Genesis G70, which is the same deal as a Stinger, but it's like a couple inches shorter.
Yeah,
and I thought it was rad. Great car.
If you like that, you'll like a Stinger.
Yeah.
I think the Genesis has a nicer interior by just better. I like the design better. The quilted stuff looks
thing
good.
Was dope. Yeah,
all of that looks nicer, but I think the Stinger's better looking on the outside. You should also look at used GS 350 F Sports.
Oh yeah, they just killed the Lexus GS.
Yeah,
Lexus GSs are the jam.
Yeah,
they're real nice,
and that'll have the reliability he's looking for.
Yeah, I would look. Yeah, add that to the repertoire.
All right, let's see. Nick Rogers says he's got what would you rather get? A Maximum Motorsports style S197 Mustang or a tastefully modified Fiesta ST? What would you choose for seat time or pizza delivery?
Fiesta ST.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fiesta ST.
All the time.
Yeah, for a daily driver car, a lightly modified Fiesta ST is what's up. That's the kind of car that makes errands fun.
Yeah. And kind of like the Morgan, like it's friendly. The Fiesta won't piss people off. That's something else about the Morgan. Like no one's looking at you like, look at you trying too hard.
Yeah.
So that's
it's not like it's not an ego car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Unless you make it look like Ken Block's car or something.
Yeah, I mean if you put too many canards on it or something, or like
keep the dive planes.
Like don't put your fabric tow hook on it and drive around. There's things you can not do for sure.
Yeah.
Sean Finney says, is the 2019 Miata RF with the good engine worth the $7,000 premium over a 2017? He's looking at both cars. They're both used. He wants to keep for 2 to 3 years, but he's coming from a supercharged Z3.
I mean, it's a big difference with the engine. If you can afford it, I think it's worth it to pay more for the good engine now because you'll get it back on the other end. Not all of it, but the premium for that isn't going to be the full $7,000. It's going to be $7,000 minus the difference on the other end between that and the regular. You know what I mean? If there's a premium for the good engine now, then in 3 years when you go to sell, there's still going to be a premium for the good engine.
True.
Same thing as getting ceramic brakes. You get ceramic brakes, you got to spend $8,000 now. But when you go to sell the car, you get $5,000 more because it's got ceramic brakes, right? So you really spent $3,000.
True.
You know what I mean? So it's money in, money out. So that's the thing.
Yeah. And if that new one is going to be the more sought after car because it's better, which probably be the case, it will be easier to sell it.
Yeah, correct. And also if you can afford it, like I'd skip the power roof to get the better engine.
Yeah.
I'd go soft top better engine and save some of the money. Now that may not be practical for what this person wants. You know what I mean? But if you had to say good engine or hard top, fucking good engine. All day good engine. Yeah.
I'd have to drive them both back to back again.
You can tell the difference.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Andrew Polito says, he said you made a comment about, I think it's a watch thing. Let me remind you, Tony Soprano wore a 36mm President.
Tony Soprano wore a watch that was appropriately sized for someone in his position in 1997 when that show came out. That was 24 years ago.
Styles have changed, right?
Styles have changed.
Yeah.
And by the way, people do still wear 36 millimeter watches. I just don't like that style because I have big gorilla wrists, and so I wear a watch that is 40 to 45 millimeters, which is a little more appropriate.
Blake Wrong is selling some watches, and Bozy was like, "Man, I wish you had wrists my size because all of these would look ridiculous."
Yeah, Bozy has good taste in Seikos, as does Blake. Blake just got a nice little Speedmaster from Crown and Caliber. He sent me pictures of.
Cardis Sinner says he wants to buy a 2017 Chevy Bolt for $12,000 in 8 months.
In 8 months?
He says in 8 months cash. I think he's just saving money. But are there any other EVs he should look out for around the price of $17,000? Have either of us driven a Bolt?
I drove a Bolt very briefly. Who had one? Alex from Sharkworks had one, and I drove it when I was up there. And they were putting tires on that Evora for me, and I went to get lunch. It was very brief. I liked it in general. I was like, okay, I get what this is about. It was very upright and narrow and kind of like toastery.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Toastery, yeah.
Compared to the Volt, which was more like normal car shaped. Other EVs, I mean, dude, honestly, smart EVs and like Fiat 500 EVs are like really cheap.
He doesn't like the 500e, but I mean, there aren't that many.
There's not a
competitors.
lot. Is there? What's the Honda Fit EV? Isn't that one? Isn't that a real one?
Yeah, my brother had a Honda Civic. Well, he had an e-hybrid that was pretty good.
$17,000 is a weird place to be, right?
How much is a used Volt right now?
I would go with a Volt.
Yeah, me
Like
too.
I'd get the nicest, newest Volt you could get before getting, because then you get the 50 miles of range, the second gen Volt, and then you've got the gas engine if you need to go past that. And I think the Volt is a nice, like it's wider, it's a little, other than the
Ride's
hatchback,
great.
the ride is really good on a
really
Volt.
good.
Yeah. But the Bolt was okay. It was fine. It just, it didn't do it for me because it was very vertical and narrow, and I have big, broad shoulders. What do you get? 2017 Volts, $15,000, 15, 16 for Volts.
Yeah,
I would go with a Volt.
yeah.
I'm a Volt evangelist. I had one, and then my sister got the second gen one. Both great cars.
Yeah, I know they don't have the EV range this person will get out of the Bolt, but if your drive is, I don't know, reasonable distance every day, you won't have to use the gas motor anyway.
Yeah.
Matthew Haskin, throwback question, says, would you have any reservations about using a well-sorted 3.2 Carrera or 964 for trips to the Western National Parks from SoCal?
No.
His wife loves national parks. He's trying to justify a 911 for his trips.
No, a 911 is a very reliable car. Like an air-cooled 911, like my 3.2 Carrera engine, like there will never, that engine will never just like explode. Like it's never just going to like all of a sudden one day not work. It will slowly, if I don't maintain it, it will slowly rot and get worse and worse, and the maintenance is expensive. So if you defer the maintenance, you end up with an engine that burns oil and does kinds of shit like that. If you buy a car that's good, it's got service history or recent maintenance, and the right car, no rust, whatever the right car means to you. If you buy the right car, in general, it means one that has been gone through, and you then go through it again with your guy or girl or whoever. You will have yourself an incredibly reliable car that you could drive all over the country for many, many miles. Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very good. Blaine Greathouse says he's looking for a vehicle that's fast and good looking, but still has some space and works in the winter. It would be his only car. He's got $25,000. So fast, good looking, winter car. Only car.
Audi RS4.
Yeah.
Maybe. BMW 335 Xi.
Yeah.
Right? All-wheel drive BMW.
Or just get good snow tires and you can have,
depending on what you need, yeah.
Depends on what kind of winters you encounter. But if you go good snow tires, I mean, anything in BMW's range, anything in Audi's range.
Audi S5 is a nice car. 2 doors, but spacious.
Yeah, those are really nice.
I would say
Volvo used V60.
Volvos.
$25,000.
Volvo, that'll get you in a 2015 or 16 V60 R design. They're kind of good. They're good winter cars for sure. That's kind of. I mean, that gets you a bunch of Subaru.
Yeah, you can get all the Subaru.
You can get a really nice stock Evo 8 or 9 for that kind of money.
Yeah, which has 4 doors, plenty of space, pretty reliable.
You could get a really nice Subaru Legacy GT wagon with the turbo motor.
That's what I would get.
Yeah.
I'm biased. I like them, but they're good looking, and they won't cost $25,000. And the thing you'll have to do to it eventually is like a head gasket, and then you just drive it again. Which
depending on where you live, you can get a Skyline.
Oh, you can get a GTS-T.
You could get a GTS-T, but that's not all-wheel drive.
Wait, did they make an all-wheel drive
sedan? There's a GTS4 sedan, I believe.
That's what I was thinking that, but I just used the wrong term.
Yeah.
Any of those are good ideas. Just get good tires, and almost any car is a winter car.
A Golf R, $25,000 will get you into a nice Golf R. Yeah, some options there.
A lot of options. Last two. Ethan A is considering an R129 SL500 as a weekend car. Mm-hmm. Can you recap your criteria for finding one that won't kill me on maintenance?
Yeah. Okay. So R129 SLs. These are the Mercedes SL500s from 90 or 91 through 2001. I had a 2001. I think 2002. I'm sorry, at the end of the last year. I had a 2001, second to last year. Things to look out for with them. The obvious stuff, right? Your fluids and your filters. The biggie on this one is the top. The top on an R129 is going to be, depending on the car you're looking at, if the top is fucked up enough, the car could be totaled. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you find a pretty ratty SL that runs and drives fine, but is like faded paint and the leather kind of sucks or whatever, but the powertrain can be totally fine and the top doesn't work at all, the car's totaled. Because to replace the fabric on the top is crazy expensive, and to replace the hydraulics in the top is crazy expensive. So, you know, the best, you really want to find one if you care, ideally with a hard top also, and you want to make sure the hard top, because the hard top doesn't just clip on, the hard top is sucked on with hydraulic clamps. So you want to make sure the hard top system works. You also want to make sure the soft top works. And then other than that, there's not a lot about them specifically. They have a lot of like power shit. You know what I mean? Like the soft closing stuff and whatnot. Oh, that's mine. Mm-hmm. You know, tires can be expensive. Brakes can be expensive. Just like stuff for this car, like real basic. My car didn't really need anything. My car was fine, but even not needing anything, it's still somehow like there was some piece of plastic that was like holding, it was like a shroud around the air conditioning compressor or something. And it might have broken at some point. It didn't, it was broken, but it wasn't catastrophically broken, right? But if it got worse, it could cause a problem. Well, that was a piece of plastic, and it was $1,000.
What?
Yeah. So that's the kind of shit you want to look for. So, like, you know, you can have a car that runs and drives perfect, that looks pretty good, you know, and that is probably like a good 4 or 5 footer. But like, if the top's broken, if the top's torn, if a couple, you know what I mean? You can have a real fucking problem.
Yeah.
The fucking keys, that's a problem. If you don't have the remote keys, because it's an electronic key, and the keys are like I think they're like $1,000. So there's a big price difference if they sell you a car with a valet key versus one working electronic key versus 2 working electronic keys. You know what I mean? There's a huge price difference if they sell you the top, the hard top, and the hard top with a stand. I will say that mechanically, the second gen cars, like when they switched from 500 SL to SL 500, that's what I call the second gen. Mechanically, they are very stout. If you get one that's sorted, it's unlikely to take a complete shit on you.
It's just all those other little things, because you know, when they redesign a car, they redesign a bracket, they redesign a shroud, all that stuff. It
little
changes,
shit can add up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, but I never had any. The only major problem I had, and it was not major it didn't leave me stranded, but one of the catalytic converters disintegrated. The shop said it was impacted by something, like a rock or something, and so the material inside the cat
like cracked
and started making a rattling noise, and I had to replace the catalytic converters, which was $2,500. It was really expensive.
And to be fair, they're very expensive in any car.
Yeah. That's not unique to Mercedes.
Yeah,
the $1,000 fan shroud was unique to Mercedes.
Totally.
And there was a couple, like there was a little trim bit in the that's another thought for this person. Interior trim bits. They are shockingly expensive. If you need to get the bezel that goes around the dome light, it's probably $1,000. I got a little trim bit that went around the visor, the flip down visor. You know, there's the metal things that hold the visor on, and they go into the dash or into the binnacle, and there's a little trim piece. I mean, it's a fucking piece of plastic. It's like 2 inches. It was $100 to do it. I mean, it was that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So top, hydraulics, trim bits, keys are really the ones where it's like little stuff can totally add up to where a car is actually totaled. I mean, if you wanted to bring it back to where it should be, you know. Yeah. So,
Okay.
So I spent $17,500 on my car. I think it cost me $3,000 or $4,000 to run it for 2 years, and it was only about 6,500 miles. But at the state it was, I could have run it for 3 or 4 more years for almost nothing. But then I sold it for exactly what I paid for it. So
it was super clean. It was super clean in in every other way. So
mine was exceptionally mint.
I think yours. That's a good example though. If you bought one that's very mechanically sound.
Yeah, everything worked.
You don't have to fix any of that stuff.
Yeah, and the stuff that did go wrong was little stuff, and it never left me stranded or anything like that. And it was in general a very good car.
They're good looking.
Yeah.
I've seen more of them around, I think.
Yeah.
Last question by Gordon Allen. He really wants a Volvo C30, but the 6-speed is rare. So he wants a small turbo daily. So should he buy the C30 auto or just get a Fiesta ST or an Elantra GT? I mean, we know the answer to this.
Yeah. The problem with the C30 is that they suck. They look...
They do.
They do.
We had one as a press car in like 2012.
Yeah. And it sucked. And that was the Polestar. That was the blue one, remember? That was a C30 Polestar. I drove the regular C30 before that as a press car, and it super sucked. The problem with the C30 is that every input is made of rubber. And that doesn't matter. Even the manual, like we had a manual. The manual sucks. Like you don't want the manual because the manual sucks. That car is a really cool design that absolutely does not deliver any way in the driving department.
Mm-hmm. It feels very heavy. When you're sitting and driving it, it just feels like a V40 or a V60.
Yeah.
And even though you get out and you go, well, half the car's gone. Why is it still so heavy?
Yeah. I love the interior design. Mm-hmm. I love that tiny little tumble home, that narrow that they did. I love the hatch, the throwback to the P1800. Like, I wanted to like that thing so bad, and we got the best one you could have, the Polestar and the right color and everything, and it super sucked.
Yeah, it was very disappointing, unfortunately.
Yeah,
you're gonna want the Fiesta if you need to carry
the Fiesta. Or
Fiesta.
Did he put Veloster on there? I mean,
he did not.
I don't know what the budget is. Veloster N.
He had Fiesta or Kia Forte or Elantra GT. I'm imagining he's shopping used. I'm guessing.
Yeah. All right. Then Fiesta. In that category, I mean, and maybe if you can stretch to a used GTI, you know, a little more space, a little more Germanness, but in that category, the Fiesta's the one.
If you want a fun Swedish hatch, just get a German one. It's close. It's close enough. Swedes are gonna yell at me for that, but
Volvo does some things well. The C30 was not one of them.
Yeah, it wasn't, unfortunately.
Like, I'd rather have a 740 turbo wagon than a C30. Like a 90s Volvo.
Well, because the C30 takes away all the practicality of all their other good cars.
Right.
But it doesn't give you a fun,
it's got no hatchback
nimble performance trade-off at all.
No.
Which is such a bummer.
Yeah.
It's you've bought a V60 and you went to a junkyard and you cut the back half off. Like, it really, and it's just dragging it around.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how. And then in the front also, the back looks so interesting and unique but the front just looks like all the other Volvos. Like I remember I saw her in a parking lot from the front, and I was like, oh, and I walked around the back and went, oh, it's a C30.
Yeah.
That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
It needs to be different. All right.
There's hope, but not with that one.
Let's see. Carl Vogel with the donation. Thank you very much. He says, thanks for keeping us entertained. And then
Yep.
Wiley says, this will be literally the last question. Construction update.
Construction update. I have one. We got a water permit. That's a fucking thing. Getting a water permit. It took 22 months to get my water permit. And that means we can dig up the street and connect our fire system, which means we can open. Which is amazing.
Okay.
So, yeah, the water permit
Okay.
was the last. That doesn't mean there haven't been other major problems. There have. The inspector showed up and decided that we must have all this other shit. We have to have these duct detectors, which are smoke detectors that go inside your air conditioning ducts.
Whoa.
We need to have those. We need to have a bunch more things, and it's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we got a water permit, and that is by far the most important thing. Aside from that, they're installing our gates, all of our power gates. They're installing our security cameras. Our server room is like, there's so many fucking wires down there. I don't even know what any of that shit is. But I just did the walkthrough with the low voltage people. It's like all of our outlets, our switches, our TVs, our internet, our security cameras, our door locks, like all of it is electronic. All of it's on low voltage. So I have one company doing all of it. And so we walked through and literally went over every door lock, keypad,
Whoa.
access port, data thing, for everything, for the new studio, for the lounge, for every lock, because we're not going to have, there's no keys, right? It's card readers. Everything is card readers. So, or remotes.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's intense.
It's a lot.
It's intense, but it really is, I think, getting almost done. And the last big hurdle was the water permit. That was the one where it was like we could potentially end up with a finished building that we can't open because of that. And that doesn't mean we didn't have water. That means we didn't have our fire sprinklers connected to the city's water. That was it. It wasn't the water, like the toilet's already flush. They put toilets in and they work. So it's not our water, it's our fire water.
Got it.
So that was
okay. It's a much bigger pipe, I'm sure.
It is. It's a
Whoa.
8 or 10 inch main. It's enormous. But now here's an interesting problem. So now we got our permit, right? Well, now we connect the water. To connect the water to the main, normally you'd have to turn the main off. Except it's a state of emergency and it's a stay at home. And you can't turn the main off.
Whoa.
Because people need the water because people are at home. And so that puts you in a very interesting predicament. And he goes, there's something called a hot tap. And I go, get the fuck out of here.
No way.
And he goes, I don't know if we can do a hot tap because the pipe is over 100 years old.
The pipe is 100 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's it made out of?
Iron or steel,
Okay.
I guess. I don't fucking know.
Like
Iron.
lead.
I guess it's iron.
Lead and clay.
Yeah, right?
And you have to replace it for the entire city.
I know.
A hot tap? That
a
sounds
hot
like
tap.
they got to bring a guy out of retirement. They're like, Willie here used to do these, but he
Bro,
retired a few years ago.
3,000 gallons a minute on this main.
No.
Imagine tapping
You're sending
that-
someone to the
tapping
moon.
that shit up.
No way.
Fuck out of here.
Yeah, put on your bear attack suit.
I don't want to do construction ever
Just-
again. This is not fun anymore.
You're learning a lot, though. I bet you're learning a
fun
ton.
for a minute. Yeah, now I know what a hot tap is. I know that I never want to do one.
Yikes.
Fucking crazy.
Seems dangerous.
Well, that's our show. Bo is good. I'm glad he got
Yeah,
to come
man.
on.
What a cool dude. Never met him.
Yeah. That's it for us. Wednesday, the 29th for the live audience at, what time do I have this at? 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern this coming Wednesday. Johnny Lieberman will be here. He will not be here. He will be phoning it in. And he will probably be very opinionated and mad at me about something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what, but I'm sure I was wrong about at least one thing. And then Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. We have Frank Meekum of Meekum Auctions, son of Dana Meekum. I met this dude when I was hosting a thing at Meekum, and he was chill AF. And I don't know why I just spoke the letters AF. I suck. But yeah, he's coming on, and I don't know. We're going to talk about collector cars because collector cars are good. And I'm interested to see what these big in-person auctions have in mind. Bring a Trailer seems awful fucking smart these days, don't they?
They can white label that software.
We're supposed to get Randy on soon.
Next week.
Oh, did you book it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did it?
I haven't put it.
Is it not on the calendar?
No.
Oh, okay, great. Well, that'll be good. And then next week, Cinco de Mayo, May 5th at 5. Cinco de Mayo at 5. We got Mike Musto. We're gonna be drinking tequila.
Yeah, the only thing he drinks.
Yeah. We're going to have to fucking send him a bottle ahead of time.
That's be great.
All right. That's our show. Thanks for listening. The Smoking Tire Podcast is powered by Shout Engine. Get your own damn podcast at shoutengine.com. It's easy. All you need is a microphone, a connection to the internet, and ideally something to say. Peace.